U.S. Now, the goal would be to protect American jobs, a theme that is, of course, at the heart of Donald Trump's plan to keep America first. The fallout, though, would likely be felt in your pocketbook by way of higher prices. So how specifically? Well, to better understand it, we're joined now by CNN Money Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans, the political editor for TheRoot.com, Jason Johnson, and Washington Bureau Chief for the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich. So, Christine, I want to start with you on this. Walk us through what this tariff would really mean for the average American.
Well, it means at the border there would be, let me be clear about this. This has been floated. This is one of the ideas, we are told, that is amid the armory of things that the Trump administration is considering to try to bring American jobs back to the United States. So say you put a 5% tax or charge on everything coming in. So what's coming in from China? It's footwear, it's bedding, it's furniture, it's auto parts in some cases, it's washers and dryers from Mexico. So you would add a 5% charge on all of those things for the manufacturers of those products. So what happens to the company that's importing those goods? Well, do they just eat it out of their profit, or do they pass it on to the consumer? The first thing, probably, many economists say this morning, all agree, you would add that 5% onto the consumer. The second thing that could happen is you could have retaliation. So China buys from the United States, say, agriculture products. It buys aircraft. It buys electrical machinery, lots of complicated stuff. Well, then China could say, all right, we're going to put a 5% tax back on you for your soybeans, for your corn, for your Boeing planes, and then all of a sudden you have this tit for tat, and that's where you start to have trade wars. So, Mark Zandi from Moody'sEconomy.com this morning telling me this is just a bad idea to put a 5% tax on everything. There's the business community pushing back sharply, saying this is a sledgehammer for trade. This is not good for trade policy. And I keep going back to the fact this is floated. This is one of those things that they are probably looking at a range of ideas. So far, the business community and most economists saying, tariffs not a good idea.
It also could impact, and Christine, you and I were talking about this just briefly in the break, but Jason, I want to throw this one to you. It could directly impact some of the people who were some of Donald Trump's biggest supporters during the election. So it sounds great, especially for a lot of places in the middle of the country where jobs have gone away, and yet to have to pay higher prices, Jason. How could that work out? And again, as Christine said, it's being floated, but just the idea of that.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea, but then again, the very same people who are voting for Donald Trump are also probably going to lose their health care when he ends the Affordable Care Act. Look, earlier in the campaign, Donald Trump said he wanted to put a 45% tariff on China. Now he's down to 5%. Here's the basic fact. If you go to trade war with other countries, and that's what that is, if you start putting across 5% tariffs on everybody, it's going to be perceived as a trade war. They will raise prices. That will in turn affect American jobs and American prices. We tried this before. In 2009, President Obama tried to put a tariff on China bringing tires over here. And it saved, if you think about it, maybe about 1,000 jobs, but it ended up costing American consumers hundreds of thousands of dollars more to just buy tires. So it's not a very good idea. I think that's why Trump is floating it right now. He's going to do some sort of tariff, and it's going to end up blowing up in his face and hurting the very people who voted for him.
In terms of China, this is not the first evidence that we've seen of Donald Trump perhaps rewriting this relationship with China. But, Jacka, we're also learning, of course, that this idea being floated on top of everything else comes on the heels of Donald Trump, of course, appointing Peter Navarro to the White House Trade Council. When we add all that up, what's the impact on that relationship?
He's already sort of started a antagonistic a relationship with China. So it really, look what happened with Taiwan. I think he was the nominee for, 2 weeks? So no matter what, I think that relationship is going to be a lot tougher than it's been, and it's already been kind of tough the last couple years. But we'll have to see what the reaction is if all of this is from Congress, because a lot of Republicans are stalwartly against tariffs and won't be happy with this to the extent that they speak out. There was an article in Politico a couple days ago that there is some fear about speaking out against Trump. We'll have to see if they overcome that when it comes to the economy and some of the economic principles that they have so steadfastly clung to the last for most of the establishment Republican Party.
Christine, too, in terms of the economy, we do have some new numbers on the economy. The economy doing pretty well at this point.
A nice tailwind for Team Trump, quite frankly. 3.5% GDP growth in the third quarter. And, exports, one of the reasons, American exports, one of the reasons personal spending was good. GDP 3.5%, the best performance in 2 years. So you have these signs that the American economy is doing well here. Another point I would make is that the IBM CEO, Ginni Rometty, who's been at the table with Donald Trump, among other CEOs and manufacturing CEOs, CEOs as he talks about making manufacturing great again. She keeps making this point that while this focus on bringing back traditional or 20th century manufacturing jobs is important, the new collar jobs, the more high-tech jobs that maybe are not conveyor belt jobs, but more like 3D printing kind of jobs, though there is great demand. There are 300,000 or 400,000 manufacturing jobs open today that could be filled if we could figure out how to get workers who are out of work, manufacturing workers out of work, and those employers to get the skill set right. Whether that's training, that's, the government pushes it, whether companies are responsible, I'm not sure. But there are 300,000 manufacturing jobs open today.
That's a significant number, especially when we keep talking about manufacturing jobs are the ones that are leaving.
Highest in 9 years. Yeah.
I do want to ask really quickly, we also have new numbers on signups, of course, for Obamacare. And Jason, since you brought this up, I'll throw this one to you. We've heard, of course, consistently, the president-elect has said it is going to be repealed and replaced. We don't have a firm idea of what that replacement looks like. Do these sign-up numbers in any way impact what that plan might ultimately be? Could they have Republicans perhaps taking a second look?
Oh, definitely. Look, you've got people rushing to buy their guns. You've got people rushing to get married if they're gay couples. And you have people rushing to get the Affordable Care Act because Trump says he's going to dismantle it. But they don't know what the replacement will look like. I'll say this. Barack Obama was a very smart person. The Affordable Care Act is like Jenga. You can't pull out pieces without this whole thing falling apart. And so I think it's going to take the Republicans a long time to repeal and replace this unless they want to put millions of Americans off of health care, in which case that's going to hurt them at the voting booth in 2018.
We're going to have to leave it there, but good to talk with all of you. Christine Romans, Jason Johnson, Jackie Kucinich, thank you. We just touched on this new report from the government, which shows strength in the American economy. The GDP growing 3.5% last quarter. It's actually the strongest showing in 2 years. So what could it mean as markets open just moments from now? Allison Kosick is live at the New York Stock Exchange before the bell. Allison, good morning.
Good morning, Erica. So I am watching futures based on how this report came out. And yes, it's a positive report. Not enough just yet to turn futures around, but we still got about 7 minutes before the opening bell. So yes, we found out that the U.S. economy grew at a very healthy 3.5% in the third quarter compared to the same time a year ago. And this actually follows the second quarter's very anemic 1.4% pace. So you look at the quarter between July and September, the economy actually had its best performance in 2 years, helped by soybean exports and consumers who got out there and spent their money. It's yet another sign the U.S. economy is doing better and not far from where President-elect Trump wants GDP to be. Okay, let's first pause here and let's chat a little bit about the elephant in the room. The question that's been asked every single day: has the Dow hit 20,000 yet? No, it hasn't. But stocks have had an amazing run since the day after Election Day. The Dow is up an amazing 1,600 points since November 9th. What's driving it? The Donald Trump effect. Essentially a Santa Claus rally, kind of dressed up as Donald Trump on expectations his policies will be good for business and good for the economy. But investors aren't giving it up that easily, Erica. The Dow is within reach, at about 60 points away. However, it looks like the flirtation will be continuing today. Erica?
The flirtation will continue, and so will our watch. Allison Kosick, thank you. Still to come, a deal to repeal North Carolina's bathroom bill crumbles. We have the latest.